Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for clicking on this video. My name is In The Game Kaya, and alongside me, fellow 2K fan and doubles partner and pro-am partner, Super Shadow 515. Say hello.
What's up, everybody? Today we're going to start a new series, ITGK Talks NBA2k. Hopefully this series will get off the ground and we can bring you guys some good 2K content. Please note, this is just a podcast. We're not going to go over the top, demonstrating over-the-top builds and all of that. This is just talking about the gameplay and what it's like to play the game.
Yeah, and we're gonna try and do this every other week because I'm afraid that with something like 2K, there won't be stuff to talk about every week. So we're, instead of trying to go every single week, and we might be able to do that maybe eventually if we get enough questions. Which, by the way, if you have any topics you want us to cover, go ahead, leave them in the comment section down below. I'd say get a hold of us on social media, but we don't have any.
I don't social media.
YouTube is the only social media we do. So the only way to get a hold of us is in the comment section. You want to share a thought, go ahead and leave that down there. We'd be more than appreciative of that. And go ahead and like and subscribe while you're at it, please. Thank you. And so this is episode 1. And we've got 3 different subjects that we're going to talk about today. So we'll just start right off the top with something that's kind of been debated. Not necessarily debated, but to me it is a question. Is NBA 2K 20 better or worse than 2K19? I think a lot of people would say worse because there's a lot of bugs to it. And there's things like shooting mechanics that have changed or dribble mechanics that have changed. They're not always appreciative of it. So we'll start with you. Get your thoughts first. What do you think? Is it 2K20 or is it 2K19? Which one's a better 2K?
Personally, I believe that 2K20 is the better game.
Okay.
And it could be partly due to my added experience coming into 2K20. 2K19 was my first NBA 2K game where I played Park and really seriously played Park. So I really struggled for the first several months of the game. Mm-hmm. But knowing what I'm doing coming into 2K20, overall I think it's a better experience. I'm more adjusted to it. And personally, I like it. What about you?
You were an elite Park player too in 2K19, weren't you?
Right. By the time 2K20 rolled around, I was an Elite 1, getting close to hitting Elite 2.
Okay.
And I suppose while we're at it, we should get this out of the way. Currently, as of the day we are recording this
he is a
video,
superstar.
I am a Superstar 1 in 2K20, and you are an All-Star 3, about halfway to hitting Superstar 1.
I'm getting closer. I kind of slacked off there for a little bit. Stop grinding. I can't hold a grind. Like I can do it for a few days and I just have to stop. And anyway, I think in my opinion, 2K20 is better than 2K19, if only because it's more balanced than 2K19. There were plenty of things that were broken in 19. There were things like lockdowns that could just complete, like your 610 lockdown that you ran with all year.
I did main a 610 pure lockdown. I loved it to death. I wish I could play with that build still, but alas.
That build could do basically everything. And it could shut down anyone at any position. Yep. You would go out and get rebounds over glass locks and stop centers from scoring and then clamp down on a guard that was trying to dribble. If we needed someone to just shut down somebody, we'd just put your 610 lockdown on that build and it would just not get anywhere.
And that's just on the defensive end. For those of you that aren't aware, 610 glass locks in 2K19, they were also capable of finishing in traffic. They had gold posterizer. A player that really knew what they were doing could do momentum behind the backs to create off the dribble. And thanks to corner specialist and jump shot boosts, could be a decent shooter in the corner.
Yeah, that's good, but glass locks weren't in 2K19.
Yeah, that's true. If you have played any Park whatsoever, you know. In 2K20, you know.
Yeah.
Glass locks shoot threes. Don't let anybody tell you otherwise.
Yeah, don't be that guy. Don't leave them open.
We'll get into that at a later date.
Yeah, that's in a different episode that we will do eventually. But, I think 2K20 is more balanced than 2K19. The thing about 2K19, though, is the shooting was less, I will say fluid. where like if you were a good shooter, you were open and you timed it well, you were much more consistent with your jump shot in 2K19. 2K20 is a little bit closer to the realistic side, where even when you're an elite shooter, sometimes you'll miss that open shot.
Yeah, and occasionally you'll just have an off game.
Mm-hmm.
That happens too, but that happened in 2K19.
That's like a realism thing.
Yeah,
because nobody is an elite shooter every single game.
right.
The problem is, and this is maybe 2K's biggest problem going forward, is where do you draw the line between this is a simulation designed to emulate real basketball versus this is a basketball video game that is designed to be competitive, which means that it matters more about how well you play than how well the game says you should play.
And I guess at this point, especially after several years of practice and fine-tuning things since, what was the first year of Park? 2K15? 14? So with the latest console generation.
Mm-hmm. But 14 was just kind of thrown on as an added mode. It wasn't a focus until, I'm going to say 16. 16 is when Park became a focus.
But anyways, they've had a few years to sort things out, and I think they've actually got it pretty well. There are a lot of people that will complain one way or another. It's too realistic. I'm missing wide open jump shots as a good shooter. Or look at these guys. These guys have a 65 three-point shot, and they're splashing threes. But at that point, that tells me that there's balance.
There is a lot of balance. There are some spots that need touching up. And I think if they could make the shooting more consistent, I don't think it would wreck the balance, but I think it would help a lot. If just quality shooters who time their shots well were more likely to make their shots. Now, I'm not saying we need to go all the way back to 2K19, right, but just make it a little bit better than it is. And that's one thing 2K19 had over 2K20. It was if you're a sharpshooter, it was very rewarding to play and just green after green after green, and you don't need green machine.
Yeah.
Green after green after green.
Really high-level sharpshooters in 2K20 can still do that.
Yep, they still can. It takes a lot of skill, it takes the right badges, and it takes the right offensive scheme, which we all know is hide behind screens, hezzy pull-up green.
Yes. We'll get into that a little bit more in the next section of this podcast.
Yeah. The other thing that 2K19 had over 2K20 is isolation handling. For Dribble Gods specifically, I had a playmaker, you had a playmaker. Mm-hmm. Now mine was a point forward.
I had two different playmakers.
Mine was a speed boosting point forward.
Don't do what I did. I started 2K19 with a 5'10" playmaking shot creator.
Yeah.
No, shot creating playmaker.
That was a mistake.
That was a big mistake. He wasn't quite good enough to shoot consistently, and being 5'10", his defense was terrible, especially pre-March or so patch, when they patched jump shot contests. Yeah, that was a mistake. But eventually, I made a pure playmaker at 6'5", I want to say. Mm-hmm. That was a quality build.
Yeah. And my 6'9" point forward could speed boost. I got him up almost to 90 overall by the end of the year because I played enough NBA to get me into the park, and that was it. Because I don't like grinding, like I already mentioned. It's just, like it gets so boring after a while. But you know this. The dribbling seemed to be a lot more fluid in 2K19 than it is in 2K20. Yeah. But if you know what you're doing in 2K20, you can get close.
Right.
It's a little bit different style.
I will say, I appreciate 2K20, what they tried to do for the ball handling in 2K20. It is a little bit easier to do these dribble moves, specifically the hesitations, are a little bit, I'll say, overpowered in how they work. You can blast out of a speed boost out of a hezi in either direction.
You don't even need to be a speed booster.
No, you just need quick first step, and that's it. Which, quick hint, get quick first step if you're any sort of ball handler. It works wonders.
Get it to the highest level you can. Quick first step, and what else? Like Dimer?
Yeah, I would recommend Dimer. But not everybody wants Dimer. But anyways,
I'm a passer first.
After a lot of practice in 2K19 with ball handling, I still wasn't great at speed boosting. So there was a really big skill curve for ball handlers. And if you look on YouTube at these really high-level ball handlers in 2K19, these true dribble gods, I look at it and it's like, how do they do that?
Mm-hmm. Well, 2K17 was even crazier. Like, I think somewhere between 2K19 and 2K20 is where dribbling should be, because 2K19 is just a little bit overpowered. It was extremely difficult to defend, even as you were a defensive build.
Yep.
And all you did was defend the best player on every team.
Well,
pretty much.
Also remember, I was a 6'10 glass lock. My lateral quickness was like an
Lockdown.
84. Not glass lock. Oh man, too much 2K20. Yeah, a 6'10 pure lockdown wing. At that point, I had an 84 lateral quickness. So I wasn't truly built for stopping. I could, but the really elite ball handlers would still beat me.
Mm-hmm. So, but it was, they could dribble forever.
Yep.
They were speed boosting everywhere. They could do all kinds of crazy combos. And yeah, it looks great on the highlight reel, but to play against that is difficult. And that was one thing. It wasn't necessarily broken, but it was just a little bit overpowered. There are plenty of things like that in 2K20 that aren't broken, but they're just a little bit overpowered.
Yep.
And then, to try and defend that was very difficult. And then there's play sharps. That's basically all 2K20 is play sharps.
Right. Well, especially in 2K19, play sharps, you could have a player with a 90-plus three-point shot that after a certain point could speed boost. Mm-hmm. I built one of those. I was never good with them, but I built one of those.
Well, then 2K20 is more about momentum and mind games.
Right.
With the dribble system,
because and screen cheese.
It's not as snap. Oh yeah, and screen cheese. Yeah.
Of course, you can't forget the screen cheese.
Can't forget the screen cheese. But there was screen cheese in 2K19 as well. It was not as bad as 2K20.
Right.
Because we've both played as defenders and tried to stop the screen cheese, and it is painful this year.
Yes.
Trying to get around those screens.
We're getting better at it, but it is still quite painful.
Anyway, we both think that 2K20 is better. 2K20 is better than 2K19.
And I think
it is very close.
Right. And I think what we were talking about is a natural transition to our next point, the current state of playing online in the park or in 3v3 Pro-Am or in the rec. Mostly we're focusing on the 3v3 game modes online. And what do you think how would you describe the current state of playing online?
Playing in the park is fairly laid back to me now because we started to win a lot in park at the end of last year after playing a couple thousand hours of 2K19.
Yeah.
And getting close to 1,000 hours in 2K20 to play games in the neighborhood, there's not as much of a reliance on cheese, and there's more lower level players that kind of intersperse themselves among
I wouldn't say there's less
teams.
of a reliance on cheese. I would say there's just as much of a reliance on cheese.
But the thing is, 3v3 Pro-Am is all cheese.
Yes, the skill level is lower. That's my point. On the average, you'll still come up against really high-level players in the park. But a lot of times, you'll see a team of a couple of all-stars and one superstar. Or a pro and a couple of all-stars. Or just a bunch of all-stars. There will be lower-level players interspersed amongst the high-level players. Mm-hmm. And if they can get a game, you pick on that guy. Because he's an easy funnel. That's just how playing in 2K online in 2K works. Mm-hmm. Actually, that's just basketball in general. If you have a bad defender, you pick on him. Yep.
So if you're getting picked on, it might mean that maybe you're a bad get good scrub. So anyways, yeah, and all the screen cheese we talked about, Hall of Fame brick wall is so easy to get. Just about every big man is part red something.
Yep.
Because of how effective red badges are at stopping people at the rim.
Right. Between Intimidator and
Rim Protector
and Brick Wall.
The Pogo Stick. Those 4 badges, basically means it doesn't matter what your defensive ratings are. You can pretty much shut down anybody at the rim.
Right. And especially when you're screening players that are below All-Star 2 with the park badge system that they have in 2K20.
Iron Wall and Screen Crusher both need to be eliminated from this game. I'm just saying that right now. They both need to be eliminated from this game.
Yeah,
because
at the very least, they need to be toned down a little bit.
Number one, it encourages high-level players to pick on low-level players, which if you want to retain your low-level players, yes, them losing is fine, but them getting picked on and abused by something that they just haven't unlocked yet, And then to have the counter not unlocked until significantly after the badge itself is another problem. If Screen Crusher came first, it wouldn't be a big deal.
But if Screen Crusher came first, there wouldn't really be much of a need for Iron Wall.
It would just be to demolish rookies. And at that point, there's so few rookies and pros, it's not really a big deal. But anyways, the screens in this game are absolutely ridiculous. Like, as bad as 2K19 seemed to be at times, 2K20 is worse.
Except for shoving, which was in 2K19.
Well, there are some times when it feels like you're getting shoved up.
That's true.
You just run into a screen and fall over backwards.
It's basically the same effect as shoving.
Mm-hmm. And then the other guy's got all day to line up his shot and make sure that he gets it. And your defense can rotate over, but smart players are probably spacing the floor so that it's hard for defenses to rotate. And once you rotate, there's another guy who's wide open.
Yeah, which everybody can shoot because you can build your player however you want, so...
Why not give him a three-point shot?
Exactly.
And even non-green builds have the ability to shoot threes.
Much as in 2K19.
Like, you have an all-red two-way finisher. He's not as good of a three-point shooter as your lockdown from last year.
Right.
But he is good enough that if you pass the ball to him and he gets dined in the corner with a jump shot boost...
It's a decent shot.
It's an okay shot. It's close to a 30-ish%, which means he'll make about 1 out of 3. You can live with that, especially if you have a quality rebounder who's ready for that shot and might get the rebound. You can live with that.
Yeah. So, of course, screen cheese is a problem. That anybody can see that just by playing 1 or 2 games. You'll run into that. Mm-hmm. Screen cheese is everywhere. It is a plague in 2K online.
Yep.
A lot of times you will run into, like we mentioned earlier, play sharps. That's basically all there is for guards. Either that or the everything guard.
They're either play sharps, the everything guard, or ISO slashers, which are kind of rare, but you're not going to see any defensive point guards. Pure playmakers can be either way. It almost always labels you as a slashing playmaker if you're the all-yellow archetype.
Right, and then slashing playmaker can have up to about an 80 driving dunk and a 78 three-point shot.
So you could even be both if you built your player right.
Right. You can do anything you want as an all-yellow. You're just not super effective at either.
And then you get all of those playmaking badges like handles for days. I don't think the stamina of dribblers is a problem. I don't think that they necessarily dribble for too long with Hall of Fame handles for days. Because much like when people saw that quick draw was a thing, that this changed how fast you were able to shoot instead of the speed on the jump shot creator.
Mm-hmm.
Well, my thought was that's fine because now you need to add badges to this build specifically for that if you want a faster jump shot. But if you can live with a slower one, now you have more badges elsewhere. The same goes for handles for days, really. If Hall of Fame handles for days is properly balanced, which it's pretty close right now. Is it too much stamina? Is it too little stamina? I don't know because I'm not a playmaker. And you're not a dribble god playmaker, so...
I've started leaning a little bit more towards it, but I'm still not great as a dribble god because my player can't score after I get space. I don't know why. Don't at me. So, anyways, I think you're right. It seems pretty good. It may still be just a smidge too high, in my opinion. At least when I'm defending it, it seems a little high, but...
Well, my thing is that all it takes... they have 24 seconds, and they run down the court. They've got it down the court in 2 to 3 seconds.
Right.
Past half court because of how short the court is and how often transition happens and that kind of... Okay, you shut down the fast break, but it's been like 3-4 seconds. And now you have 20 seconds that you have to defend this guy who's just dribbling back and forth and all over the place, sprinting around and trying to get just a sliver of space for a jump shot. With 2K19's jump shot contest, the ISO playmaker sharpshooter thing would not be as much of a thing.
Yeah.
Because the later contests would mean a lot more.
And before we move on to our last talking point, I think we should also mention a quick gloss over, just say most of the time you will run into 2 guard lineups.
Mm-hmm.
Not many people run with wings. And if they are a wing, it's either some sort of sharpshooter or it's a defender and slasher. That's about it. So moving on past that to the big men for a quick minute before we move on. Almost every single big man is a glass lock.
Specifically what you and I have come to term, and I'm sure other people use this term, stretch locks.
Right.
Where they stretch the floor as a glass cleaning lockdown because they're actually part red, part green. And there's not a name in 2K.
Which I don't know why.
For like floor stretching defender, floor stretching rim protector. Why isn't there if you're a green-red and you have a high three-point shot, why are you not a floor stretching rim protector or floor stretching rebounder?
Right.
There's not a term for that.
But anyways,
just about every part red big man is a glass lock.
And this is the reason why everybody is a glass lock, and also the reason why glass locks can shoot threes.
They're basically last year's stretch fours mixed with rim protectors.
Yeah.
So they can consistently hit jump shots.
Yep.
Now, they're not completely consistent, partly because of 2K20's mechanics, and partly because of the way those players are built, where their three-point shot is significantly lower. You're not dealing with a 90 or an 80 three-point shot. Usually, it's more in the 70-ish range, 70, 75 range. What's yours? You have mid-wing.
I'm going
wingspan.
to spell this out for you guys. I have built a green-red center. It's a stretch lock, as we call it. It's a 7-foot-tall player. But because I went with a slightly shorter wingspan, it ended up with a 73 three-point shot and like a 77 or 78 mid-range shot, which is just barely enough to get spot-up shooter takeover. 7-foot tall, green-red, with spot-up shooter takeover.
Mm-hmm. So you play kind of like a low-level stretch four.
Yeah. I mean, you've seen how that player can splash threes when we're playing in Pro-Am.
Mm-hmm.
I would recommend, for those of you that want to play as one of these builds, or want to play with one of these builds, if you have control over it, make sure at least one of your teammates has Dimer. Dimer makes all the difference between Dimer and
Floor General helps too.
Specifically Dimer, Floor General helps too.
And everybody runs with jump shot boosts anyway.
Right. Those boosts to you, along with whatever badges you get, helps tremendously. And now this build can be actually a really good shooter.
But it's also almost as good of a defender and rebounder as the all-red.
Right. It still gets, because of how much of a boost you get to your interior defense with max weight, if you build it at 7 foot, min wingspan, you're thinking, well, shouldn't be that great of a defender. But you go 290 pounds, this guy has an 89 interior defense.
Mm-hmm. Which is only a few points off of the all-red.
Right.
So the all-red's a little bit better defender, a little bit better rebounder, and obviously gets more badge points.
Right.
But it cannot shoot. So that whole half of your game is missing for just a few points of defense and extra badge points. So just about everybody is one of these green-red players.
Right.
Power forwards, centers, they're all green-red players.
And it is one of the best big man builds in the game because it can play elite defense and be a pretty good shooter, depending on the player. On the flip side of that, transitioning to our third point for this episode.
Because everyone is a glass lock, and take it from me, who built a player a lot like this early in the game, the worst big man build in the game is a 7-foot plus interior force. The all-blue build. It plays okay-ish defense, good enough to get stops. The problem is, your all-blue, when you're that tall, is essentially trying to finish under the rim.
It's
like
an
you're
athletic
Shaquille
finisher.
O'Neal.
It's an athletic finisher standing under the rim instead of a slasher cutting at the rim.
Exactly. So you're there to be a lob threat,
right.
to help catch lobs in transition.
You're DeAndre Jordan.
DeAndre Jordan, or I said Shaq.
Shaq. I consider Shaq more of a paint beast, but okay.
So anyways, this build is designed to score around the rim. It only starts to score consistently around the rim once you hit 7'3" max wingspan, where your ability to get around people to put the ball away from the defense because of your length is so good that the defender can't get decent contests on you.
Right, and
that's when it starts to be okay, but then you're 7'3" and you're god-awfully slow.
Yeah, I can do that just a little bit, what he mentioned about keeping the ball away from the defense because you're so tall. I can do that as a 7'3" all red glass lock.
That's the other thing that makes this build not so great. All red glass locks are basically as good of finishers as all blue players.
Not quite. There is a slight drop in attributes, and you don't get Hall of Fame badges.
You don't get nearly the same amount of badge points either.
Right.
But those badges, apart from a couple, don't really matter.
Right.
Contact finisher, slithery finisher, and that's pretty much it.
Yeah. I mean, if you're 7 foot or taller, you might as well not even bother with Giant Slayer.
Mm-hmm.
Because the only time it's ever going to kick in is for facing a 7'3" player.
Well, and because of Intimidator,
right,
everybody this year is 6'9" to 6'11", with some 7 foot and up, but most everybody is shorter for the speed.
Right.
So that you can run in transition. Honestly, right now, the 6'10", 6'11", red-green center is probably the best big man build in the game. Especially because it's just the all-around utility big man. It gets stops, it grabs rebounds, and it stretches the floor to shoot threes, which means the other red guy can't stop your point guard that wants to ISO and drive to the rim. And then every single team is built with an isolation point guard, a green-red center, and a wing that you just random wing, which is probably another ISO guard. Or
that's usually how it
sometimes works. Another green-red center. So basically everybody is either a point guard to isolation score off of screens, shoot threes, and drive to the rim, or they're a green-red center that plays elite-level, rim-protecting defense, grabs every single rebound, and stretches the floor consistently enough that you cannot leave that man open. So the all-blue big man doesn't really fit into this. Now, I've started to see a few of them run at wing and try to exploit matchups with so many two-guard lineups because those all-blue big men can sometimes blow past that guard and get to the rim.
But at that point, it's better for...
You might as well build an all-blue wing...
or an all-blue power forward if you still want to be a big man.
And you're probably under 7 foot tall.
Right. So
we're still 7 foot and over. Because there is a point at 6'9", 6'10" even, where this all-blue build becomes a decent slasher. Actually, a really good slasher. And it's so huge and heavy that when it flies at the rim, it dunks with a lot of force and skill, and you get those badges going, and you can be a combo inside-outside scorer where you can stand under the rim, and if you get a rebound, you're a putback threat, occasionally anyway, because the green-red center's not there for some reason, so he can't play defense on that, or you're a slashing threat. But then this is a combo thing. Again, multiple aspects to this build. That's something that the 7'3" to 7 footer of the all-blue just does not have. And I've never come across one, even as a paint beast. This is the one that I built coming into the game, thinking, I want to defend the rim and I want to dunk on folks. Well, that's not how it works. I defend the rim, I grab rebounds, I kick out to shooters, I never shoot. I go entire games without taking a shot.
Not just not scoring, without taking a shot. I can attest to this.
I've gone multiple, and then I'll score probably somewhere between 2 and 4 points a game. Occasionally, I'll explode on all guard lineups that just cannot stop me. Hall of Fame back down punisher, Hall of Fame drop stepper, just back them down, dunk on them. They can't stop me.
Right.
But even the problem is Intimidator, really. And I would go into Intimidator, but we're starting to get close to that half-hour mark. I don't want to start another spiel, and we'll get to that eventually in a future episode. So next game we're going to talk about next game.
Next game? This is a game?
Next episode we're going to talk about competing in NBA 2K, trying to play online in the different modes. without buying VC. What's it like? How much effort does it take? Is it worth it trying to do that? And look at one of the better guard builds in the game in case you want to be one of those scoring guards. We'll take a look at that as well. With that in mind, make sure you like the video. Leave a comment down below. Tell us whether you like this podcast, you didn't like it, what should we change. Just go ahead and leave that feedback in the comments below. Any topics you want us to discuss, go ahead and leave that down there.
A very important point we'd like to mention, we're going to specifically talk about gameplay. So if you want us to talk about some beef on Twitter with 2K YouTubers, that's not what we're going to do.
No, that's not why we're here.
We're here to talk about the game, how it functions, how it plays, and what you can do. Hopefully, we're going to help you get better. I have no idea if we will, but that's our goal anyways.
Mm-hmm. And if we got something wrong, hey, call us out in the comments. Let us know what we got wrong. We'll fix it. You know, we're still learning this game too. We're not the most elite 2K players, obviously. But we do play consistently enough that we're kind of like the gateway between the casual players and the hardcore players, because we play a lot of 2K. We play every day.
Right.
We play a lot of 2K. We're not the best, but we're better than like half of the people who do play.
And what did you mention the other day about where your average, like where the biggest wave of players is as far as rep?
Yeah, if you're coming into the game right now and you're trying to figure out where is everybody, where should I be, you know, do I need to grind a rep up or anything, just to kind of give you an idea. This game's been out since early September.
Right.
And everybody right now is in that All-Star 3 to Superstar 1 kind of area. Like, that's where the front of the wave is, of the massive players. Like, I am kind of in the middle, maybe the front middle of that wave of players who got the game early as they kind of rep up and move forward throughout the year. Because everybody's just kind of making this slow crawl toward Legend. And so I'm kind of on the front end of that wave, so I guess I can just keep you up to date with where I am at. But everybody right now is kind of an All-Star 3 to Superstar 1. And that's, oh shoot, how many hours of Park do you think we've played? 300?
I have no idea. We also play a lot of 3v3 Pro-Am, which...
that's the best way to wrap up.
Friendly tip for you guys, you get double, if not more than double, depending on how you play, the VC you would get in your standard Park game.
And it's the same experience, just better players.
Right.
And there's instant matchmaking. It's ranked, so if you're a low-level player, you'll get matched up with other lower-level teams and people that are restarting their teams so they can play against you.
Yeah, you'll still run into those.
Anyways, I think that does it for today.
Yeah.
Don't forget to leave a comment, like the video, subscribe, and we'll see you next time.
See ya.
All right.
See ya.